bring the mysteries of Turkey alive for you tonight. You all know, a lot of you know me. I'm Laura Roy. I'm an Egyptologist, but my degree is in Near and Middle Eastern civilizations, and so is Francois. So we covered the whole Near East and early archaeology at the University of Toronto. Fantastic professors. It was a second degree for me. My first was in English and drama, and my first love, of course, is Egypt. I've actually been to Turkey 3 times, and I actually did archaeology. There I am with Ed, who actually ended up only being about 150 years old at the archaeological site in Apollonia in Bulgaria, which is a classical Greek site. But anyway, there's Ed. And Francois is also, actually, he is a much better archaeologist than I am. And you've done a lot of work, not just in Egypt, right, Francois?
Um, yes, I've done archaeology in Italy as well, and started off with early classic studies. Of course, the standard is Greco-Roman, and I've also picked up what we call prehistoric archaeology and First Nations archaeology here in Canada, and of course we all went through our master's program here at the University of Toronto, and earliest degrees also modern European and military history as well. Um,
So
so
Francois, as you will find out, is a veritable encyclopedia. He knows world history very well. But today we're going to take you specifically to Turkey, ancient Persia, the Byzantine Empire, the land of the Ottomans, right, Francois?
yeah, that's right, and just to set a ground floor, just basically Turkey is bordered by six countries, and the important are 3 seas: the Black Sea to the north, the Aegean to the west, the Mediterranean to the south. It has a rapidly growing population. It's now at 85 million plus. It is a republic and has been since 1933 with their hero Kemal Atatürk. So a secular state has a Muslim majority, and it has significant minorities. Of course, the major one are the Kurdish and the Armenian, and there's also Arabic as well. There have been many refugees, I believe something like at least 2 million from Syria in the south of Turkey right now.
So if I can just add, one of the things that's astounding is the size of Turkey, France and Germany combined. And when we envisioned this tour, we had this ambitious plan to embrace both East and West. So going almost to the border down south there with Syria, but also taking in the wonderful sights of Ephesus and, of course, Cappadocia. And the operators like, we don't usually do this. This is crazy. I don't know how. It was a very complex puzzle to put together to cover this whole country with very, very unique sites. But we're going to show you this unique itinerary tonight. But of course, like all tours, ours starts in Istanbul. I so fell in love with Istanbul, if I can say. I've been there 3 times, and each of them more magical than the next. Than the last one. I was there with my father, who's a travel lawyer, and for his law conference, and just I got lost. I was wandering through the old streets. I had a romance. I don't know. I could tell you stories from Istanbul, but it is such an incredible city. And I just wanted to, before Francois just talks about it, I found 2 amazing quotes. One of them by an unknown Turkish saying, "Istanbul is a magical seal. Whoever has lived here, even for a short time, carries it in their soul forever." And I think I can say I'm one of those. And Napoleon Bonaparte. Yes, Napoleon was there, and he said, if the earth were a single state, Istanbul would be its capital. What do you think about that, Francois?
Yeah, he did have um, Alexandrine visions of uniting East and West, starting with Egypt, and had made, I guess, um, feelers, I guess, at one point with the Russians to try to take the Sublime Porte, as it's called, to take the Ottoman Empire. But obviously those dreams came to naught.
So we're looking at those bridges, and tell us what we're looking at here.
Um, okay, this isn't we're actually looking at what is called the Golden Horn. You're just right now, we're just looking at the European side right now of Istanbul. The bridge that you see on the immediately east of the photo is the famous Galata Bridge that takes you to the Galata Tower. So this is the so-called Golden Horn. Um, this is what the early Greek explorer, I guess, missed. They founded the Chalcedon on the eastern bank, and when I believe it was Megacles was looking to create a new colony, he went to the Delphic Oracle um, and asked for advice. And of course, they replied cryptically that is where the blind to settle where the blind didn't see. So anyway, obviously
Okay.
what they're referring to is if you just go past the entrance in the Bosporus and you see it right there. You see Chalcedon actually, which is a neighborhood, is on the Asian side. That's on the east of the photo right now.
Is
So
that the right or the left?
no, it's to the right,
To the right. So this is,
right there.
yeah.
Okay,
Okay. All
that's
right. So this is
okay.
beautiful. We're also looking at the two greatest landmarks, which is amazing, the Hagia Sophia and the Blue Mosque.
Yeah,
And oh yes, we were doing this. There's Asia,
Europe is
there's
on the other
Europe,
side. There it is. Of
and there's the
course.
Roman Hippodrome, or what's Sultanahmet Square today, right?
Yeah, it's the yeah, that's right. It's actually just the shape of where the Hippodrome was, and we're looking straight up the Bosporus. Actually, they have two long suspension bridges that cross the strait. As you know, the city with 16 plus million. Some of the traffic jams on there last 8 hours long,
Mhm.
um, and I've been caught in a short one, I think
Yes,
on
it's
one of my
crazy. It's
trips. Only
worse
two and a
than
half
Cairo.
hours. Only
Worse
two and
than
a half.
Cairo sometimes. Unbelievable. I experienced that too. However, we're not going to be caught in any traffic jams. We're going to get around, and we're staying in #1 rated hotel on TripAdvisor. Last I checked, the Neo Rion. Fabulous 5-star hotel. We're going to have a welcome dinner on the rooftop. We're talking about September 21st, 2026. Our tour will start there, and we'll do some fabulous things. And I had to share these pictures. This is a little secret spot that we might take you to, the Seven Hills restaurant, and you have views on the rooftop. Right now, I'm looking at the Hagia Sophia there, right? Francois knows the Blue Mosque that way.
That's right. No, it's the Hagia Sophia.
Hagia Sophia. And the other side, you can see the Blue Mosque, you can see Asia, you can see everything. It's such a romantic place. But of course, when you come, sorry, that should say hammam, it's a little cut off there. When you come to Istanbul, you might consider, as I always do, going to one of these historic hammams. But the Turks didn't invent the bath, did they, Francois? They kind of embellished it from the Romans, right?
Yeah, it came from the Roman tradition um, of the three baths. It involves a good cleansing, a good scrubbing, so to speak. So someone does scrub you down, so that it may not be something for everyone. Um,
And they're not exactly like, models and Sports Illustrated type ladies for the women. Not that the men and women are separated. So you will have the men's quarters with the men scraping you down, and in the women's quarters, it's actually quite funny. You get these older women and these this great pendulous breast. This woman comes up to me, it's dirty, 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 and scrubbing me. But you get to lay out on this fabulous, sometimes heated marble. And Semperlitis, from 1584 is unbelievable. You can go in there and experience what the sultanas experienced in the old Istanbul, having this wonderful thing being scrubbed down, having the waters being massaged. So it's really,
So
really a unique experience.
it's a very relaxing, I find it can be very relaxing and meditative experience.
There you go. There's a better idea of the look of Semberlitis itself, the most famous ones. There's other very old ones, but this is the classic hammam
Yeah,
in
and most high-end hotels will have a hammam or a miniature hammam or hammam-like spa. It's quite popular throughout the Middle East and North Africa.
and look at the sort of Corinthian style columns there. A lot of these, possibly in Semberlitis, I'm thinking they might have been taken from old temples. What do you think?
They're quite likely were recycled.
Yes,
But yeah.
absolutely. Okay, we're going to obviously no tour would be complete without exploring the Hippodrome. But the thing with our tours, what we specialize in is enriched historic tours. So, today when you go to Sultanahmet Square, you might get one of the wonderful pretzels, the civets, very famous Istanbul food. I should have showed it in there. You might enjoy the green space, but to have the history come alive of what happened in this area, right, Francois? The Hippodrome,
No, that's right. Um,
which you want to describe what this was originally.
well, okay. Obviously it was an area of, this is the largest entertainment structure for the very popular chariot races. I think Ben-Hur. And of course, they usually have four teams. And what took place during the Justinian period is a lot of the political factions lined up between two of the teams, the blues and the greens, and then up in the infamous Nika riots of 532. It's important because um, the army had to be called in. It turned into basically a revolt against Justinian. Almost half the city was burnt down. They estimate 30,000 were killed. So it's not just a little riot. Um, a lot of the city was destroyed and had to be rebuilt. And so, um, and so it was.
Anyway,
And some of
anyway,
this
but
and
it's
that
still
whole area, that a neighborhood near the
Mhm.
palace was absolutely rebuilt. But
Okay.
within the
And
spine of that hippodrome were the obelisks, maybe, and that's what you might like to talk about.
yes, well, there's the main obelisk, the big one, was brought over in 390, and it was an obelisk of Tutmosis III that was 1,000 years older than that. So for in and about 1400 BCE from Karnak Temple. So it was Theodosius I that brought this over to Istanbul. Um, but the
Right.
other one behind it was built by blocks from the 10th century. They liked the obelisk form, but it was really not an Egyptian obelisk. Constantine, the seventh, and it's covered with bronze plaque. So two, but really one authentic one, right, Francois?
Yeah, the important note, it looks a bit short, that obelisk, and it is because you're only seeing the top third. Um, the remainder of the obelisk wasn't brought over.
Right, the one,
Two,
the Tutmosis, the third one, that's right.
yeah,
The
that's
other thing
been
it
cut
says they only
off.
took over part of it, right?
Yeah, they
Let's
cut
talk
into
about
it
the
three.
big site of Istanbul. We got to get out of Istanbul soon because people might know Istanbul, but not the rest of the country. But in short, Hagia Sophia, there's a fantastic, I don't know whether it's still on Prime or Netflix. I think it's called The Ottomans, and it's a docudrama, and it's fantastic to talk about the history of this important site, right?
Well, it covers the siege and the capture of Constantinople in 1453. Um, so this important building and as was the largest cathedral for almost 1,000 years until it was surpassed by the great Cathedral of Seville in 1520, and of course St. Peter's in 1626. So this was a substantial building, when the Turks tried to build a mosque larger than that, it actually collapsed. And this mosque here has survived some of the worst earthquakes, and Istanbul area is due for another major one um, this century. So anyway, it's a phenomenal structure on the inside. You can see how sturdy it is on the outside. The inside is absolutely amazing. It's covered in mosaics, reflected. Some of these uh, Ottoman mosaics cover the original Greek mosaics underneath it. At the center is actually Christ the Pantocrator at the center of the dome at the height of the dome's has a height of 180 feet.
And of
But
course, because Muslims didn't like have any human faces or forms, they've replaced everything with the script. And again, the circumstances of it changing from church to mosque and all of that, it's quite fascinating. We don't have time to get into it all. This is our little visit there with Francois being a tour guide back in, I think it was 2015. And I think a picture I took in my
that's the Blue
2013
Mosque.
visit there. Oh, that's the Blue Moss. Wrong one. I put the wrong picture in there.
There's the
Speaking of
Blue
Blue
Mosque.
Moss, this blew me away. I wandered in there. I'd come from archaeology in Bulgaria. I took the bus down to Istanbul, arrived in the early evening about that time, and I wandered in. And of course, I've been to the mosques in Cairo, and there's some phenomenal mosques, but nothing like this place. This is stupendous. Um, tell us about this incredible mosque from the 17th century.
Yeah, as I said, they tried to build a mosque to outdo the original Hagia Sophia. They failed in that respect. It's not as high or as large, um, but it's extremely beautifully decorated in blue tiles from Izmir. Um, and it's different in the sense that instead of having the normal four minarets, it has six.
But you know
The
what
other
Ahmed had to do? He had to, Mecca was very upset because that's the same amount as Mecca. So he paid for a seventh minaret to be put up at Mecca so he wouldn't offend any of the people going for their holy pilgrimage to Mecca. This is the interior. And to see it in person is even more spectacular.
Yeah, it all depends on the light. If it all depends on the light on the day that you're there. Uh, Sometimes you'll walk in there and it becomes like a dull blue gray, but in the right light, it just shines like a jewel.
It's just stunning. The Blue Mosque is one of the most beautiful of all monuments in the world. It is indeed a dream in stone, said Edwin Grosvenor, 19th century historian. Never heard of him, but nicely put. There's another image of what it looks like inside. I mean, truly, truly spectacular.
No, that's
There's,
Topkapi Palace.
oh, did I put the wrong picture? The wrong
No,
picture
no,
in.
it's going too
Oh, I went
quickly.
to the next slide and it's actually hiding something, but this is Topkapi Palace and it is also spectacular. And my little thing has not worked actually. If I can just escape for 1 minute and just let's just do this. This should be, there we go. So let me go back and then let's get your slide for Topkapi and do I try this again? Sorry about that. There you go. So please introduce this palace we'll be visiting.
Yeah, well, there it is. Built obviously in steps and in stages. Um, this was the palace of the sultans of the Ottoman Empire. Um, of course, the building started immediately with Mehmet I in 1453, and they kept adding to it um, until it was decided it was too dated by about 1860, and created another palace, the Dolmanice. So anyway, this is the so-called Sublime Port. For those of you who read history or read a reference to the Sublime Port, this is what they're referring to. This is the palace of the sultans.
But it's famous for the Topkapi diamond, that 86 carat diamond. And there's a movie, Topkapi, as well. There's been lots of movies. I think Bond films were filmed there. And this is indeed is one of the beautiful interiors there. So what a gorgeous place. I've been there a couple of times now, and it is spectacular to walk around.
Yeah, it's quite large.
Now, I just going to mention the cistern. Actually, if you want to just really quickly introduce it.
Okay, Istanbul or Constantinople, like Rome, had 7 hills, and in order to prepare for its defense, they created a series of cisterns on the hills, and then they attached them all with aqueducts. And this is the cistern. This was the last one, and it was situated underneath a basilica. So actually, this is an incredible place to visit.
Really is.
336 columns, 30 feet high. You actually have to go down. You actually go down, and they've redone it. In the past, you used to walk over, and of course, the whole area is flooded, and it's been used in several movies, including James
Yes,
Bond.
exactly. By the way, these are repurposed columns from Greek and Greco-Roman temples that they've used in there. They even do operas down there. It's kind of a mysterious place too. Was it a worship place? It was pragmatic. And there you go. There's a beautiful image of what it looks like. And from Russia with Love, there is the famous scene. You might want to rewatch that movie to see James Bond in the cisterns. But those
Yeah,
are some great.
I think
Uh,
there's another one with Roger Moore. They shot one of Roger Moore's in there too. Anyway, don't know.
I have to say, the Grand Bazaar in Istanbul, and there I am with my friend Philsa after doing archaeology. I was trying to find my picture getting a magic carpet ride because I did go carpet shopping. Actually, I think I've got the carpet right nearby me. It's not that big, but I really overpaid because the carpet guy is still calling me every year, and that was 11 years ago I was there. Anyway, it is a beautiful bazaar, and I do love my Egypt and I love my Khan al-Khalili, but this bazaar is the most stunning of ancient bazaars. A little younger than Khan al-Khalili in Egypt, but it is extensive. And there's the jewelry quarter and the lamp quarter and the rug quarter, and you can get completely lost. Right, it's the largest until the mid 20th century. When we were last there, Francois and I did not buy carpets this time, but we did buy a lamp. But word to the wise, make sure you have it reprogrammed for North
Rewired.
American, rewired for more North American fixtures because we had to struggle to get our beautiful Turkish lamp so it could light up the room. But a phenomenal place to go in and bargain and get lost. Now, here's somewhere I was trying to find the picture when I was too scared to go at the Galata Tower. I take balloon rides, no problem, but this freaked me out.
And for a good reason, because at the top, all you have is a small metal rail, and the space between, I guess, the wall or the parapet that you see is 3 feet at the most, and and slopes downward. Actually, slopes towards towards the street, and tries to, it kind of leads you towards the edge.
It
So
is
for
a
those of
leaning
you that
tower.
have a little height phobia, you see them sticking to the walls. But yes, um, it's the tallest point. It's on the European side. It was built by the Genoese, of course, in competition with the Venetians, who were on the other side of the Golden Horn. Um, and you can climb it up if you in that type of shape. But yes, there's an elevator.
Yep. And we, of course, as part of our Istanbul experience, will go on a lovely Bosphorus cruise. Most tours do this, and it is a really beautiful experience. I've done it a few times, and just to be out on the water in Istanbul, admiring the monuments by the water is beautiful. I'm just going to keep moving for time. Now, the Istanbul Archaeological Museum is one of the most astounding archaeological museums in the world. It has so many great treasures in it, including, is this really Alexander's sarcophagus, Francois?
No. Anyway,
But it's a good one.
Yeah, absolutely. And so there's quite a bit from the obviously from the Greco-Roman period, but it's very thorough and stunning museum. I spent most of my time looking at the Iron Age, um, uh, pre-Greek, when I was going through that museum. It's very
Yeah.
extensive.
And they've also got, and I don't know whether we don't have it, they have the Hittite peace treaty from the wars, the Kadesh peace treaty too. So all sorts of jewels in this museum that is gorgeously laid out.
Yeah,
But
Vicky,
here is
yes, you're
where,
correct.
yes, and here is what we're really excited about. I mean, so many things. So few people on a Turkey tour. You usually either go east or go west, but very few people go up to the Black Sea. So what we're going to do after spending a good 4 days exploring the history of Istanbul, three days, is we're going to fly to the Black Sea, an area called Trabzon, to see the most astounding Christian monument. I'm going to say the most astounding, well, apart from the Hagia Sophia, the most astounding Christian monument in Turkey, or one of them.
Absolutely. And yeah, it's hanging off a cliff at about 1,200 meters in terms of elevation. And it started off by two Athenian monks during the reign of Theodosius the First. And of course, it started off in the back caves. Um, and it's centered around an icon uh, to Mary, dedicated to Mary. And so Sumela means the Black Mountain. What you see there in the photo is some of the buildings and the caves that are behind the structure that you see hanging off the edge of the cliffs. So it's also known. So obviously there are a lot of decorated caves in this structure here. So the interiors are quite spectacular.
There you go. Just another incredible view. And I'm not sure how we're getting up there, but I'm game. And despite my height phobia, I'm sure it won't be as bad as the Galata Tower, or maybe it will be. But this is amazing, and it makes me think of those Meteora churches in Greece too. But this is very different, and you're right at the Black Sea, so a very unique experience. We're flying the night before, so we can be
No,
right there in the
we're f-
morning.
no, we're flying in the morning. We're flying in the
Uh,
morning and we're going straight from the airport to, we're not checking into the hotel right away. We're going straight
okay.
to the
We'll check our
monastery.
flight schedule, but we're going right there to get there, and we'll have a great tour of it. Here is an idea of the interior, which is almost as spectacular. You can see the ceilings is uneven, and it's been beautiful decorations all over. So, did you want to say
It's
anything?
yeah, the only thing I wanted to say is one of the reasons it's survived for so long is it was protected actually. All the different Ottoman sultans, Mary still plays an important role in the Muslim faith. And so because of that, it was actually protected.
Interesting.
And and what took place is it was abandoned in 1923. 1923, it's important to know with the setting up of the Republic and the Treaty of Lausanne, there was a major population exchange where many of the Turks living in Greece moved back to Turkey and vice versa. A lot of the Greeks living and had spent they were there. I mean, they were there for over a couple of thousand years. Many of the Greeks left, and so it
Turkey
became abandoned. And it's only in 2015 that the government made serious efforts to
to
restore
restore
it
it.
and turn it into a museum.
Right. So from this amazing experience of that hanging monastery, we go to Ankara. And Ankara is not a city you want to spend a week in, like Istanbul, but it does have its interesting sites. So did you want to talk about the couple of things we're going to be doing in our brief stay in
Well,
Ankara?
I just want to bring out to the fact that I just mentioned that capital of the Republic of Turkey since 1923. This is Kemal Ataturk. He gained his spurs at Gallipoli stopping the Australians and the New Zealanders at Gallipoli, managing the Turkish defense.
It's
And
interesting. You
and
think that Istanbul was the capital, but it's not.
no, it was the capital. Istanbul was the capital of the Ottoman Empire, but the new republic recentered the capital on the Galatian plains, or the plateau that we call the Anatolian plateau, and the old city of Angora, or Ankara. And so that's what we'll be visiting. So it's the second largest city in Turkey, but small comparison with, I mean, 5 million is still a very big
Right.
city, but
And
smaller than
evidently, this
Istanbul.
museum is an absolute jewel. And it was
Yep.
built from a 16th century caravanserai, kind of like some of the places we go in the Cairo Bazaar that are actually um, ancient market structures. But beautiful pieces in here. They say it's one of the best.
Yeah, that's what we were told, and these are just some of the stone reliefs are just incredible.
Stuff from the Hittite Empire. The lady at the bottom is from the 6th century BCE, an ancient goddess. So definitely a fleshy mother goddess, but absolutely fantastic museum, the Anatolian Civilization Museum that we will be visiting. And the other notable site that we wanted to take you to is Ankara Castle.
That's right, and of course this place was heavily fortified since the 7th century BC. But the build that you see here is basically from the is Turkish, basically from the Middle Ages. So starting from 1356. So it's the high point, and you'll be able to see the whole city from that point. And what's really important about it is it flanks the old town, and we'll be visiting the old town,
And
I
evidently
think.
that's beautiful, right? A beautiful
Yeah,
experience
different.
walking
That's
through.
right. Yeah, different. So they'll be taking us through a couple of neighborhoods and a couple of markets and the old town, and you can see the old, the some of the structures, especially on the one on the right that you see there, a little bit like the villages in the Middle Ages in Europe, right, with the overhangs and the
Amazing.
stalls.
Not far from Ankara, a short drive. I think we're doing the drive. We're not going to fly there.
Nope.
Is a site that people rarely see. Now, as Egyptologists, we're very, very excited to include the capital of Ramses' favorite enemy and an enemy with which he made peace, the Hittites, the city of Hattusa. Interestingly, Hattusa had the civilization existed concurrent with Egypt's new kingdom from 1650 CE to 1180 and the collapse of the Bronze Age. So these were the rivals, and sometimes during Amenhotep III, they were more friendly nations, right, Francois?
Absolutely. And interestingly enough, that peace treaty held. And there was a time when Hattusas was in crisis, and they were actually starving because a lot of unlike the Nile, their agriculture was all rain fed. So they asked for food supplies from Egypt, and Egypt complied. So but what actually started the world's first recorded tactical battle and the first recorded peace treaty um, was this city on the Orontes River called Kadesh. And so this is the Hittite Empire versus Egypt's Ramses II. And it became, or what actually it was, the largest clash of chariots. The infantry never got involved in the clash, and it was a setup by the Hittites. They
Yes, very
basically
clever.
ambush, they basically ambushed the Egyptians, and the Egyptians are very fortunate they survived that clash. But it eventually led to a lasting peace treaty. So we're
Now, when
going
I
to
look
visit the
at the
capital.
yeah, when I look at the sites and what I've gleaned about it, it reminds me a bit of Mycenae. Evidently, it's up on a hilltop, and there's these great gates, and certainly current with the Mycenaean civilization as well, but with its unique
Yeah,
Hittite
yeah,
style.
yeah, and you're right. The Mycenaean civilization was all concurrent. These are all the great Bronze Age, late Bronze Age civilizations, and even the layout of Hattusas is similar to Mycenae, but on a much, much larger scale. But we'll also be taking a drive out very close to Hattusha to what is to a valley that has religious significance for the Hittites. This is where you'll find um, a lot of statuary and carvings of their Hittite gods and kings. This is the Azilikaya rock carvings. So we're going to visit that as well that day.
You know what's amazing when I get so excited about visiting these sites, I think of the sites in Iraq and Syria. Francois, we studied this in Near Eastern history, these ancient sites that have been destroyed and by the wars that are lost. And thank goodness some of these similar Near Eastern ancient cities and sites and temples are still preserved in Turkey. And thank goodness we have that. Nothing to add there.
No, it's just that as part of the day's trip, we're also there's actually a site museum um, at Hattusas as well, and so they still have some of the I guess some of the raw carved reliefs and
Now,
statuary.
I should say that our tour is, if you think of the idea of going to Turkey and maybe going to the hammam and having some Turkish coffee, going to the bazaar, and then going to the beach, maybe at Bodrum. This is probably not your tour. This is a history tour for those who really want to be immersed in these ancient sites. However, I love the beaches and boats, so it's a nice idea. You can always at the beginning or the end, we're still in a beautiful season, just tack on a little trip to the beaches because we're still in early October. It'll be beautiful weather. But you must like museums, you must like the history and really seeing the interior of the country. That said, there's some stunning nature. We wanted to have to see all of those museums and monasteries and churches and rocks. Look at this. We're driving right to Cappadocia. And on the way, we're going to stop for lunch at this phenomenal internal lake. Can you tell us about this, Francois?
Yeah, it's one of the salt flats, and of course it's what we call an lake. It means it does there's no drainage. So all this, the water level fluctuates drastically depending on the amount of rainfall. So you will get in the dry season a lot of contraction, but it's basically leaves the salt flats. And but what's important is that type of environment attracts flamingos by the hundreds of thousands.
Oh, we didn't show a picture that we may be lucky enough to see the flamingos when we're there. We're not showing it there, but we'll see definitely some of the nature of Turkey. But then, of course, Cappadocia, very, very famous site in Turkey. We're going to be staying at a cave hotel. And after again doing a lot of this touring of museums, to be in this surreal environment. Now, the structures that you're seeing, this is a very desert environment, barren. It was the reason Cappadocia looks like it does was over millions of years, erosion, volcanoes, right? And they often call them fairy chimneys. It's almost like there's little fairy houses under the earth, and there's the chimneys coming up, caused by wind and erosion and rain and volcanoes. Did you want to add to that? You know Cappadocia better than I do.
No, it's this is a lot of it is wind erosion, very rugged. There's a couple of areas. It's carved in extremely unique structures. Um, the same type of phenomenon is at work in Drumheller in Canada, the so-called
Drumheller,
hoodoos.
right. Yeah.
Same type
Yeah.
of idea. But here it is. Here's our hotel. This is the Utopia Cave Hotel. And so some individuals, this area is still inhabited, and of course, a very popular tourist area. So many of the hotels have worked on that theme. Um, so we have a beautiful hotel here that has a combination of terraces and caves.
Right. And
Anyway,
it is in an ancient structure. So I think also in Cappadocia, it's where a lot of um, people were hiding away in times of war, right? In these caves. Talk about how they used these caves and these structures in ancient times.
okay, the a lot of these, there's two streams. A lot of these were developed by early Christianity, and the same phenomenon took place in Egypt. Started off with hermit monks, and then you have the establishment of monasteries, and then a lot of the early Christians were persecuted, so many of them went literally underground, and so this became a place of refuge for early Christianity, and it fluctuated in size over time. Um, when there was severe persecution during the Seljuk period, it really expanded. So this is one of the first ones, and we're going to visit that. This is Pasabag, or Monk's Valley, and so these little vertical chimney pots became individual um, habitation sites for the hermits for their
Is this
retreat.
where they have the eight-story one?
No, it's coming up.
Okay.
You're jumping the gun there. Um, anyway, so as I mentioned, early sites for Christianity. So some of these, like this is here is Gorem as an example. So there are a couple of open air museums in Cappadocia, and this is one of them. Um, and so these are a lot of structures that are available to visit. A lot of them are decorated. They're decorated on the inside, and they used to be former monasteries or rock cut churches. So this is Gorem. That's who will be visiting that as well. Um, this is, I think the most spectacular one. It
Wow.
is the highest point in Cappadocia. Um, and it has actually spectacular views. So we'll be going up there to take incredible shots of the valley. This is the Uchisar rock castle as an example. Um,
And this is one of our little potential outings for dinner, a restaurant called Seten. One of the things with our tour is we'll include all or most of the lunches at very atmospheric places, and then we'll give recommendations for great dinner outings. A lot of the time, we'll have done so much touring and we're staying in beautiful hotels, so we might want to just hunker in. But where we can, we will make those recommendations. But here's another incredible village, the Soganli village. Again, unique
yeah, we'll be
frescoes.
walking through. We'll be walking through, and it's the same idea as Gorem, right? Very unique frescoes and rock carvings in actually a living village. So this is going to be rather than just an open air museum.
So you
So we'll
actually
be
meet the
visiting, yeah, people
meet the
actually
people
still
who are
live
living
there.
there.
That's
And I
right.
should also say that we have selected to lead our tour an incredible guide who is just a dynamic, charismatic, extremely knowledgeable guide. We're always very careful with our guides. Francois could be a guide, but he's not Turkish, and I certainly would not be a Turkey history expert. I will be a tour leader. But we do have a phenomenal expert. That said, Francois took over some of the guiding when we've done Jordan because he just knows so much about everything. But there you go. Is this, have we got to the eighth
That's
story
what you
one?
wanted to hear.
Okay.
This is one of the big highlights. This is the Kimakli underground city. And there's a map. So it goes several floors deep. I think when you hear, oh yeah, it's in 8 stories. I think this is what they're talking about. It's not the only one there actually, but this is the one that's open to the public, and obviously lit as well. So
Unbelievable.
and
Unbelievable.
so there were people living in here. Same old story. Now the people living here were of Greek origin, and again in 1923, during this population exchange with the Peace Treaty of Lausanne, the Greek community that used to live here went went to Greece.
Did any of them hide and stay in the bottom levels of that tunnel? No, they wouldn't want to. They wanted to go back to Greece. So anyway. And then you've got also these beautiful monastic centers along the way that we're going to visit.
Yeah, we'll also visit this monastery, the Keslik Monastery, dedicated to the first Christian martyr, Saint Stephen, um, and an archangel that I'm not actually familiar with. So,
Archangelus. Okay. Of course, you can't go to Cappadocia without experiencing a balloon ride. Very different, as I understand it, from what you experience in Egypt over the Nile and the monuments. This looks absolutely breathtaking. And it's the biggest balloon ride in the world, isn't it? The most famous one.
yeah, it is the most famous one and the largest. And it all depends. I guess during the peak season, you can have up to 130 balloons up in the air at the same time.
Wow. You
So,
go very early in the morning and over those fairy chimneys and early Christian hideaways and rocks.
yeah,
Then we're going to do a bit of a drive. Now, it is a
yeah,
long drive. We're going across country. We're going to stop somewhere. You'll really be able to travel through Turkey. We should have put a map up, Francois, about where this is. We're driving east, aren't we? Southeast from
southeast
Cappadocia, straight southeast towards the Syria,
towards the
Syrian
yes,
border, but not, don't
towards the
worry,
Syrian
not going
border.
into Syria. It's safe. And we will plan to arrive at sunset and we're going to climb up Mount Nemrut. So, talk about this incredible sight.
Yeah, it was. It's at the right at the crest of this mountain, and it's basically it was the tomb built for Antiochus the First, of one of the kingdoms that was created with the breakup of Alexander's empire. But what's interesting about it, it's are the statues, and there's an altar, um, uh, an offering area, and so it's a holy site, and I guess and so anyway, it's spectacular, it's eerie. Some of the heads that have been separated from their bodies. Um, so there's heads seems to be growing out of the ground. Um, and so actually a very unique spot. I've always wondered, when I was younger, 10, 11 years old, I'm always fascinated with archaeology, and I saw photos of this place, and I couldn't understand where it was and what it is. And I certainly hadn't heard of a kingdom called Commagene, or Commagene. I don't know. I don't even know how to pronounce it. Small Greek kingdom. But anyway, this is a very, very unique site
This is
to
this is
visit.
concurrent with the end of the Ptolemaic Empire in Egypt. I thought
That's
it was
correct.
earlier. So, but we are talking about the time in the world, the Alexandria Library and the lighthouse and these great structures. Of course, a couple of hundred years before that, at the other end of Turkey, you had the great mausoleum of Halicarnassus, where you had Mausolus building his great funerary things, these massive statues. But this is amazing. This is so cool to see that at sunset. So, then we're going to arrive at San Liurfa. We're going to go from there. We'll stay overnight, obviously, in the Mount Nemrut area. It's a slightly simpler hotel. They don't have super deluxe hotels out there, but the best hotel in the area. And then we're going where?
Well, San Liurfa is that's the ancient city of Edessa. And for those of you that are familiar with the Crusades, a Crusader kingdom was created in this area as well. This here is, as we get closer to the Syrian border, this becomes one of the more devoutly religious areas in Turkey, and it borders it's on the edge of the desert. In any case, but the reason we're there for a different reason. It's basically the base to visit one of the most spectacular new archaeological sites in the world. It has all these new age religious people buzzing. Um, it's turned a lot of assumptions about the Neolithic and the late Epipaleolithic upside down, literally over on its head. And the
So let me talk a
place we're
little bit
called is
about it.
called, yep, I'm leading up to it, and the place is
Göbekli
called
Tepe.
Göbekli Tepe.
So there
And
you go. So just
yeah,
if I can give you a little, so there we are. We've come over from we've got Cappadocia is over here.
start in Ankara and go
Yeah,
southeast.
Ankara. We went south to Cappadocia in this area. I believe it's not on
No,
this map.
no, you're in the southwest. You go Ankara and go southeast, down and
Where's the
east.
Cappadocia?
It's near Kayseri. You see that? Under the
Oh, it's here.
K.
Sorry, it's right here. So we're there, Cappadocia. We're driving to Mount Nemrud, which is over in this area, right? We don't see this on the map,
No,
but it is
we
in
don't
this
cross
area.
we don't cross the river. We don't
Okay,
cross
so
that river. That's the
but then
Euphrates.
we're getting to Göbekli Tepe, which is very, very close to the Syrian border. This is a Paleolithic site. A lot of people have said it's Neolithic, but the archaeologists are pretty sure it's the end. It marks this transition from Paleolithic to Neolithic. So let's take a look at what's just been discovered, and it's really just over the last 20 years. This incredible place, just this hill, this unique hill. And what they've discovered is this oldest ritual architecture. The archaeologists are very firm in saying this is, people say it's the oldest temple. In fact, there's other similar sites dotted around it now. They keep finding every year other sites that date to the 9th century, the 10th century, the 11th century. So we're talking about 7,000 years before the pyramids of Giza. So ritual architecture, excavated, enclosed. There's, I think, about 6 enclosures where certain rituals would take place. Were these gathering herdsmen who made a settlement here, and now they're finding earlier layers. So what the key elements of these stone circles for worship were these strange T structures. What on earth were they? They faced one another. So large T structures surrounded by 8 to 12 other pillars constructed with mortar and precision stonework. And really, the building techniques would have been, we think, they were brought from miles away. Some of these stones, they would have used the same kind of sledges and tools that the pyramid builders would have used 7 millennia later. There's a museum that shows you how these giant T structures are and what are they. What's even more amazing is the statues of animals and the animation of these T structures, which are actually etched to look like men, ancestors, leaders of an ancestral cult facing one another. Some of them have belts, heads, uh, they have human form. So very, very unique. And most of them face south. I'm not going to go through all the bullets on this slide. You can see the arms on the sides of these pillars. Actually, you can see them right there, the hands coming down. So we know they're meant to be people. Uh, Very complex engineering. They're not quite sure. Was it roofed? Did they climb into these structures? And the surrounding by smaller pillars. Did these smaller pillars represent a gathering of people? There's tons of animals, the animals that they would have hunted. Were they worshiping these animals? Look, now that you can see the animation of these T-pillars as people. So gathered on a hillside as if it were a meeting of stone beings. This is what the archaeologists have said about it. So we think this was an area of ancestor worship of these very late period hunter-gatherers before organized farming. They did have some planting of very, very basic grains there. They might have even had beer, but there was no pure settlement typical of the Neolithics. And they've just found it, they keep finding new things, right, Francois?
Yeah, they found, and it's interesting, the human form. They found this little statue here. It's about 2 feet, it's about 2 feet in length, I guess. Yeah, it's about that, 67.
And they're very few. The women have a very low status in this settlement. Evidently, there's not a lot of etchings of women or statues of women, but we did find this lady, and we can see that women were important for fertility. So maybe we will find more as we go, or the archaeologists will. But the stone relief carvings are phenomenal with this. You have wild boars, you have foxes, you have wild cats, you have a lot of snakes. Really a whole menagerie of animals that we think that they worshiped, they hunted them, and they needed to, like the Egyptians, um, pay worship to them for their success, their survival, essentially. Oh, that's your new statue. They've just found
Yeah,
this
yeah,
about 2 feet high, another male statue, looking a bit like the arms, like the T-shaped structures. Anyway, to conclude, here's the archaeologist today. Dr. Lee Clare is a British archaeologist, but he's worked in Turkey for all his life. He says hunter-gatherer life doesn't stop immediately because people start cultivating again. It isn't the start of the Neolithic, it's the grand climax of the hunter-gatherers. So it's become a huge site for tourism. It became a UNESCO site in 2018. More tourists are discovering it, but it's bloody hard to get to. And we're going to go there and also visit the Sanliurfa Museum, where some of these structures have
yeah.
been erected at the site.
I find that interesting too, Laura. The first time I've heard of that particular site, of course, the early Neolithic isn't our area of study. Um, it was spiritual people talking about this site. And I
Yes,
kept
they
saying, what are you
really they
talking
focus.
about? And yeah, so it's created quite a buzz. Um,
Yeah, whether they were worship the stars and the alignments and all of these, there's so many ideas out there. When this is not the purpose of this presentation to give the whole history and theories about this site, just more like wow. And every year they're learning more about it.
yeah,
So
we'll be
let's
spending
carry on. We're
yeah,
going to another incredible site after Göbekli Tepe on day 12.
this site is, yeah, to me, this site's incredible. We're actually, it's not exactly on an everyday journey for tourists. This is this ancient city of Haran. It's only 20 kilometers from the Syrian border, and it's mentioned as biblical references. It's a stopping point for Abraham on his way to Canaan. So it's a very ancient biblical city,
Sophie,
founded by the
Sophie,
Sumerians
hey,
in 2700
Sophie.
BC, and
God damn you.
became basically the last capital, I should say, it's the last capital, Assyrian capital, before the total destruction of Assyria in 612 BC. And but what's really important, it's just a little past Haran, and not exactly there. It's very close to Haran, is the site of the crushing Roman defeat of Crassus, of losing the famous eagles, Romans
Oh,
eagles,
right.
that Caesar and Mark Antony sought to reclaim it, to attack the Parthians. They were defeated by the Parthians to try to reclaim their stolen eagles. So
Isn't that
anyway, this
line in I Claudius where Augustus is saying, "Where are my eagles?
all
Somebody get my eagles." I remember that anyway. Very good. Okay. Abraham's journey to Canaan, fantastic. And then we're going to Izmir. And we will, of course, visit the famous site of Ephesus. But first of all, we're going to go to the House of Mary. Why? And we're staying in a beautiful hotel, of course, in Ephesus. Tell us about the House of Mary.
Okay, this I see it's a purported to be the House of Mary, um, and also the area of John the Apostle. So in church in the Acts, and so in early church history, um, apparently that was the last, I guess the final resting place or days of Mary, was in the great city of Ephesus. Of course, there was a great temple to the female goddess Cybele or Artemis,
So it was
and
thought
one
that
of the
Mary traveled to Turkey
Ephesus.
to Ephesus and
Now,
resided there after Jesus's death. Is that
that's
right?
correct. That is absolutely
And
correct.
died
The
there?
point is, though, no, about this house, this is really comes through the visions of some saint in the 19th century, um, who said, who came up and said, this fits the description, and this is the house, this is Mary's house. And so slowly but surely in the 19th century, um, this started to become a shrine and a pilgrimage for Christians in Turkey. And so we're going to stop there.
Now, it's interesting how they say some of the best Greek ruins are in Turkey, and it certainly is the case with Ephesus, this massive city. And if you haven't experienced Ephesus, I was there a long time ago in my 20s, and absolutely, I'd never been to Egypt. Ephesus was in all, I went all through Greece. I was in about four Greek islands through Athens, but there was no more spectacular sight than the Temple of Ephesus, the vast city of Ephesus, famous for its library. I think it was more striking. We were in Jordan a couple of years ago, which is also unbelievable, but I think there's nothing like Ephesus, right, Francois? You haven't been.
I haven't been to Ephesus, so you're saying it's more spectacular than the city of Jerdash then
Oh no,
in
no, no. I
Jordan.
was thinking of Petra, the this fronts of Petra and everything too,
Oh
just the
yeah, okay.
effect. Yeah,
No,
yeah.
this is
Oh
I'm
yes,
really
more than
looking
Jerash
forward.
too.
Yeah, I'm really looking forward to that. Obviously, some of the best preserved Roman cities are obviously in the desert areas. So this Ephesus here, one of these days, I'd love to see Leptis Magna in eastern Libya, which is by far too dangerous to go to, or Timgad in Algeria. Um, but I think this is the closest we'll come to it.
And of
So
course,
this,
Ephesus was the site of one of the seven wonders of the world, the great temple of Artemis. Only a pillar is left of that wonder. And yeah, we don't have a lot on Ephesus here. It's just a very well-known, sprawling site. I should have put some of my retro vintage pictures from my visit like 30 years ago. Um, and yes, we won't be dining with those people. I don't know why we've got that picture. There's
well, it's going to be the final. It's going to be a seafood. It's going to be
yes.
the final.
That doesn't really make me want to eat seafood. Let's just go past there. So anyway, we are exploring Ephesus for the day with our fantastic guide. We should have had more on Ephesus. And then we're flying to Izmir, are we?
No,
Oh,
no,
flying from
is
Izmir to
Izmir,
Istanbul.
right? We're going to be the airport's in Izmir, right? And I think we'll be located in very close by in Kusadasi, and we'll be taken out to the airport in Izmir, and that takes us to Istanbul. If there's those there, the option always is for those that want to stay and I guess keep on touring on their own after from that
Go to the
location they
beach.
can,
Yep.
or they can enjoy more of Istanbul,
Or take day trips from Istanbul, go to Gallipoli,
That's
go to
right.
Bodrum, Pamukkale. There's all sorts of trips from there. I recommend considering maybe a beach at the beginning or the end if you like that. Something restful. But that is it, and that's day 14, and it's pretty extensive. And we did talk about Jordan, and I know we have some people the book that are interested in doing a Jordan extension, and that's totally possible as well. And it's a nice time to go in October. October 5th, the tour ends. So what is this? This is the tour we're doing September 21st to October 5th. The price is $67.95 USD per person, taking in everything that we mentioned. What does it include? It goes from Istanbul to Cappadocia, Göbekli Tepe, and Ephesus, exploring the crossroads of civilization. You get 14 nights in deluxe hotels. We include most of your lunches at very scenic, beautiful restaurants. I always like to do that, keep my tours well fed. You will get actually part of the price is we're flying. We have 4 domestic flights
That's right.
of this. So that's all included. The only thing is not included is your international air and a few of your dinners at the hotel. We're going to have a private coach. The tour is going to be no more than 12 people plus us, probably 10. All entrance fees to the ancient sites and monuments. We're going to have a Turkish history expert guide. Cihan Sevil, I believe, is going to be our man. He's very excited about leading it. He said, "Oh my God, this is such a unique tour. I have to lead this." A very senior guide that we've been dealing with to put this together. And we will be along as your tour leaders and managers. And Francois can always fill in the gaps with the history knowledge. He knows just a little bit about everything when it comes to ancient history. So very hard to get around to all of these sites in one tour. You really need to have this organized in advance. We've organized everything, the transfers, the admissions, the timing. 16 travelers, actually, it's going to be less than that. As I said, 12 travelers, hand-picked accommodations. We really took our time picking characteristic hotels, the Utopia Cave Hotel, the Neo Rihanna, beautiful seaside hotel in Ephesus, and special insider visits. Cultural depth, you've got archaeologists guiding you, and you'll get up close and personal with the living traditions. So how do you get on board? Why is it unique? Well, you get Eastern and Western Turkey. Hey, you get Göbekli Tepe. You stay in deluxe hotels, cave hotels. You see Ottoman palaces, churches, Hittite ruins, all of this stuff. So we are already half full. We'd like to invite you where there's no early booking discount. Basically, this is it. When it fills up, it fills up. So 500 USD is the deposit to save your space. And again, the price is 67.95 USD. We have to do things in USD. I think it's 15.95 a single supplement, 15.80 single supplement. And we've been doing tours to ancient sites to Egypt since 2012, including Jordan as well. So we are intent on bringing history alive in this Anatolian Odyssey. And that is it. Email info@ancientegyptalive.com. I think we'll send you the link to the full itinerary, which is on our website. And we're happy to take any questions. Okay.
You can open up the.
Vicky, hello there. Alexander the Great's body. Yes, if you've seen it, let us know. We're looking for it. I don't know whether it's ever going to be found. It's a mystery. And don't miss my talk on Alexander the Great on October 14th. I'm doing a lecture on Alexandria, actually. So no, we do not have Alexander's body. Ptolemy stole it, brought it to Egypt. And yes, Chris, are you coming? You'll do Egypt in the winter, and then you'll come with us in the fall. And this incredible tour. Think about it. Hey,
We are.
life's
We are.
yeah. Oh, good.
We're thinking about it.
Yeah,
We're thinking
no
about
commitment.
Great. I would love to have you guys along. Is there anyone else who might right now be considering it or have any questions on the tour or on what we have covered in this presentation? Love any interesting questions or feedback. Try to play Stump Francois. No, Rick is coming. Richard, thanks for being here. And some of our other people are not online now. Sam's coming. I know you're not committed just yet, but you're coming. And any other questions? No, you're all very quiet. Come on, let's have one thing before we let you go for the evening. It's 8:15. Has anyone been to Turkey or wants to comment on any of the sites?
We've never been, and it's been on our list for a long time. And we wouldn't obviously be able to do these kinds of things without going on this kind of a tour. So it really does kind of hit really the interesting points for, at least for me.
Oh, yes. No one can do this without an organized tour, that's
Yeah,
for sure.
yeah.
Thank you. That's great. Dana. Dana came with us to Egypt in 2016. Hello, dear.
Hello, and I would like to say I love Turkey. I've been to Turkey, but we have made a sort of a circuit from starting in Constantinople and going along the coast, and then up through Pamukkale and up to Cappadocia, and then backwards northern yet. And at that time, I was with friends. Like it was their their trip that I have asked if they wouldn't mind that I could come with them. So I had to do what they were planning, but they planned it well. But I wanted very much at that time to go to Göbekli Tepe, but they said no, it's too far away for, and we don't have time to do that. So unfortunately, and also I have to say that last year I stopped traveling. My health is not.
Oh, Dana.
Yeah, no.
Well,
I'm an old lady.
Oh my goodness, no, you're not an old lady, but yes, well, maybe you never know,
Yeah.
but we'd love to travel with you again. You're an amazing lady, an amazing traveler. We've known you so long. And yes, nice to see your face, dear. Really good to
Yeah.
see you. Okay, well, if there's no other questions right now, we'll send you the information. There's a lot of people, of course, who's watching the recording, but I really appreciate you all joining us for this presentation, and we hope you enjoyed it and it piqued your curiosity. Yeah, there's really no other itinerary like this right now, so we know it's going to fill up pretty quickly. We wanted to be with great people like Chris and Lori joining us. So, and we've got, oh, there's our friend Felice. Does Francois know the story of the blonde princess who was the captive of the Sultan who he loved the most? It sounds like many stories.
Is this Felice?
Yes, that's Felice. Maybe he does, and he's not going to tell us.
Is she talking about Scheherazade or?
Scheherazade?
Oh.
I don't know.
I don't know what she's saying.
Okay, to be continued. Thank you very much, and we hope to see you again soon. And have a wonderful evening.
Thank you.
Okay.
Okay.
Bye.